The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. Fridays here. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark in studio. Hope everyone's doing all right. I am doing the show from home. There's no worry other than a basketball game to get to not long after we're done here with Hail Varsity. So a home show Friday for me. Silently and secretly, or maybe not so secretly, Elijah and Connor are rejoicing. I don't want to speculate, but there may be a bucket of beer in the studio that I'm gone.
There's not. There is not. Connor and I found
it's only a bottle of Tito's. I'm kidding.
What now? Did I leave one of my bottles of Tito's?
No, you didn't leave it there. I'm just kidding. No. Anyway, go ahead.
No, we did discover before the show.
You brought them.
We discovered before the show one of the computers in here actually has Minecraft downloaded.
Yes.
Which
that was
really?
That was an exciting revelation to find out.
So, Minecraft first was brought into the world when?
That would have been when I was in late elementary school or early middle school.
So about put a 10 year on
it. 15 years ago?
Yeah,
15,
give or take.
15, yeah.
Well, that's how old those computers are.
Yeah.
2009 was when it was originally released. The full beta came out in 2009. So we're calling it.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. You're lucky that those computers are color monitors.
They ran Minecraft pretty well, which, to be fair, not a complex game.
I felt like I was 12 again for about 3 minutes, so that was cool.
Well, let me know if you guys find Oregon Trail. Yeah, my turn.
Ooh.
I'll bring a whole bunch of quarters.
There we go.
You can play that in browser, just to let you know. You don't got to download it. You can just pull it up in a tab and play it. Don't ask what I did in my college classes.
I know what Schmidt's doing after the game tonight.
Oregon Trail. Well, does the Oregon Trail that led to Columbus lead to Lincoln? Let's talk quarterback and portal. Mr. Kyle McCord, come on down. Is that a thing? A lot of the recruiting sites are predicting that. We'll dive into that. We'll spend some time and try and figure out if Nebraska can get well against Michigan State. Jacob Padilla going to join us in 15 minutes, get his take on all things hoops and all things Husker Volleyball as the Big Red got a date tomorrow against Arkansas. So we'll cover it all with Jacob. In hour two, Bill Doleman joins us, and the Pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports, will hit some Big Red topics. Jack Ebling, Mr. Jack, Captain Jack, excited to spend time with him. Thoughts on college football, Nebraska. Jack knows a ton about Sam Leavitt. Is that a potential reality as well for Nebraska? And then the Friday forecast. Clauseborne allegedly will join us. Numbers for you to get in at 489-1240, 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Find us on the stream, Hail Varsity YouTube channel, Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio. Give Elijah a follow at Herbal Essence. You can find Connor Clark on Twitter at C_Clark_27. Chris Schmidt at Schmidt_radio. So, Drunk Monk asked the question many Nebraska football fans are wondering, so is McCord coming or what? I think you look at the On3 folks, the 24/7 folks, the National, and all crystal balls point towards McCord in Lincoln. That's what the experts are saying. I think, Elijah, Connor, that you've got some connection between where McCord grew up, McCord's dad, McCord's college coaches, Matt Rule. I think there's some relationships that go back a lot of football years together. And, yeah, if you can get a former five-star quarterback that is a good thrower, that went 11-1, has really good talent around him, but he's also somebody that can elevate your offense, you try and make it happen. You just got to get the checkbook out. Nebraska's clearly had the checkbook out to buy jet fuel this week. And now all I got to do is seal it. Elijah, what are you hearing, man? Your ears to the ground as well. And it sounds like the sealing up of these portal options and decisions, it could take a while. It could be quick and swift. You just never know, because if you're McCord, you really didn't have a bunch of recruiting going on. You committed as a sophomore to Ohio State and didn't really take the tour. You have a chance to take some tours. I know that Leavitt's checking out Utah. He's checking out Arizona State. Cam Ward has 5 places that he's going to visit, Nebraska being one of those. So if you're Nebraska, I don't know that you take your first yes unless it's one of your top 2.
Well, with as many quarterbacks as rumored to be in town next week, the number I've been
what's the
4.
What's the rumor?
Well, I just hear that there's going to be a busy early week of visits from quarterbacks.
So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday,
Wednesday. I don't know how many days. The number I've heard through the grapevine is that there's going to be probably 4 quarterbacks in town early next week.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the names, but I think we can all venture to guess based on where Nebraska has visited. Probably you'd say Howard, McCord, Ward, and then is it going to be Leavitt as that 4th quarterback? Maybe it's just 3. All I know is quarterbacks are going to be in town early next week for Nebraska, and they're not shooting low. It's the old saying, shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars.
Give me a big number, and we'll get to the real number. So Brian checks in real quick. And I've seen this too, Brian. You've had some of the other national experts say Miami for McCord. Does he go to the U? I mean, the U will have their checkbook open. They've always been a quarterback away. Clearly, they're a little better off than Nebraska, but not really. I mean, when we talk about national relevance, so I think you've got a good shot. I think the vicinity of McCord, and McCord's dad's a Rutgers quarterback in the late 80s, early 90s. One of Matt Rule's big-time mentors in football was the offensive line coach there, Pat Flaherty. So there's your connection. You're going to have a relationship opportunity here if you're Rule with the McCords, and maybe you already have one. I don't know how deep the iceberg is, but they know the same folks. And there's a lot of Jersey/Philly community, right, with Nebraska staff and where McCord is from. Back to your visit update, though, sorry.
Oh, it's just a case of, I think, Nebraska has done the necessary first date, if you will. They have locked in a couple of second dates. Now you got to focus in on where the most mutual interest lies.
It's not one of the, dude, I forgot my wallet.
Let's hope not.
I forgot my wallet, Connor. Can you bring it to me?
The question to me is just how quickly is this process going to go? Because we know with the portal, it's slow until it isn't.
Right.
And you would assume that with quarterbacks coming to town early next week, I mean, I'd venture to say, and maybe this is Elijah Herbel being bold, I don't know, that one of Leavitt, McCord, Ward, or Howard will be committed to Nebraska by the end of the week next week. That's how I'm feeling right now.
That's what you shoot for.
I'm not sure there's going to be any names coming out of the woodwork. If you go 0 for 4 on those guys, like pull the fire alarm, there's going to be some concerns. But I think among those
we love
guys,
you, Chubba.
Among those 4 guys, I think it's a good likelihood that one of those 4 will be committed to Nebraska come the end of next week. The question is just, which guy did they settle on? Did they not strike out on all 4? Which guy through early next week differentiates himself as not only being a good fit for Nebraska, but Nebraska being a good fit for them? And you've made it through the first date process, so clearly there is some interest. Which guy is the best fit? Which guy shows you that he is going to be the guy not only for your team, for your offense moving forward? And then do you have the luxury to go and get a second guy in the portal, a guy that's going to be willing to wait in the wings, maybe compete with Chubba, maybe compete with Daniel Kalen? Do you get that second guy? But I think this is the final Friday where we'll be talking about the portal. The final Friday, portal quarterbacks.
It's kind of like the I don't watch The Bachelor, thank God, but this is quarterback bachelor going on. We'll get to more of your stream comments. Dave, thanks for hanging on. Dave, welcome into Hail Varsity. Go ahead.
Dave, do we got you? Maybe not.
All right, let's.
Yeah.
Oh, there we
Kudos
go.
To the coaching staff, Yeah, I'm here. Hello.
Yeah, we got
Can you hear me? Okay.
Go ahead.
Kudos to the coaching staff because I think, yeah, I can hear you. All right.
Go ahead.
Is your radio on, Dave? Is it turned up?
Okay. So here's the deal. I think the coaching staff has done a pretty good job. They shot for the moon.
Let's get this fixed. Let's
Yeah,
get it
he's-
figured out. Dave, hang on the line for us. Put him on hold, please. And we'll get Dave locked in. And if you want to dial up and play the adventure with us, 1-800-825-5865, 489-1240. Numbers to get in. You can always email the show, Chris at hailvarsity.com. Walter, our Philly resident, says McCord is from Mount Laurel, New Jersey. And that's pretty nice. St. Joe's Prep, it's a powerhouse football program. And Brian checks in, says, lock up the QBs. McCord, please and thank you. We can get into the discussion. Who do you want? Who can you get? And that's pretty important. Connor, are we going to try Dave again here?
Yes. Dave,
right.
go ahead.
And Dave, make sure your radio's turned down in the background.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You're on.
Yeah,
Just-
my radio's down, dude. So, anyway, all right, I'll make this really quick. So, here's the deal. I think we've done a pretty good coaching staff of the Stars when they were going for Raiola. Now they're going for another big-time quarterback, which can only help the wide receiver room, which is going to need somebody to come in and say, hey, I want you guys to throw to. You guys are going to want to be thrown to by McCord. Bye, guys.
Thanks for the call, Dave. Sorry about
All
the
right,
issues.
thanks, Dave. Email the show today. Chris at
There has been
hailvarsity.com.
some work done on the phone lines here this week, and I'm wondering if that's causing some issues. It would just seem he's getting our feet on a delay. Unsure
Which
what could
is
be causing
true. Yeah. We'll get it fixed between break time and not. We'll check in with Jacob Padilla here in a little bit as well. So, yeah, I mean, Nebraska, this is a little juicy as well. Not only McCord with his pedigree from Ohio State with an 11-1 record, but you also have the potential for Julian Fleming, guys. He's a five-star wideout. He's a portal guy, one of the top wideouts. And the only thing it's the same story. You've got Fleming's not Marvin Harrison Jr., McCord's not C.J. Stroud. But they're both pretty decent. They're both guys you'd like on the team. And, fellas, I don't know if you're Nebraska, if you get McCord, I think you'll take a look at Leavitt, and I like his ability. We'll talk to Jack Ebling about Leavitt here in a little bit. But I think you ride with Chubba. You try and keep Chubba here. He had surgery this week on that sports hernia. I think him and Gifford both were dealing with that towards the end of the season. And I think you see if Chubba can stick and stay and keep grooming and growing, and then you got McCord for a year, because you've got to elevate what you've been and what you are on offense to pair with a defense, and you could really have a nice second year, like beyond get to a bowl game. You could be in contention to win some big ball games in November if you get the right quarterback. What Dave said about chasing the five-star, that there's truth to that. But that's okay. They're 5 stars for a reason. McCord clearly didn't beat out Stroud, but when he did come in, he played well enough to win a lot of ball games, and they were on the doorstep of playing in the college football playoff, winning the Big Ten championship. Joel Klatt did a nice kind of follow-up on McCord, and he didn't do anything wrong. He got his arm hit once that turned into the game-changing interception.
But do you guys get the feel, and I want to get your thoughts on this, do you feel that McCord is the top target for Nebraska as it stands right now? Because I don't get that feel. I feel like Nebraska, as I said kind of earlier, is shooting for the moon in this one. Because you look at Ward. Ward's a future, most likely, assuming his career doesn't go to hell next season, probably looking at a first-round pick. There's a reason he's coming back, and it's because he's got a chance at, with a good final season of college, being the top quarterback on the board next season in the NFL. I know there's a lot of talented quarterbacks coming out next year, but he's got a world of potential like that. You look at Will Howard. Whenever Lincoln Riley wants a kid, I think you're in pretty good company there when you're going after Will Howard. And then you compare that to McCord, where it's Nebraska and it's Miami. And I'm not saying that is a slight against McCord necessarily, but there's a reason why Lincoln Riley is going after USC's, and there's a reason why the NFL really has its ears perked up when it comes to Cam Ward. I think those guys are really, really good, and it means something if Nebraska's in the boat with those guys. I don't think McCord is the top guy. Personally,
no, he's not a top guy in the portal, and he's probably not a top guy on Nebraska's board or many other boards. I mean, I think it is Cam Ward. He's number one on everyone's board, and then it's what's your flavor of offense. Question we can get into this hour and next. How important is it for you to have a running quarterback at Nebraska? What part of what's the usage level?
Seems pretty important.
And the necessity. Do you shelve that for a guy that's a better passer? We know that Sat's offenses have been more pro-style friendly quarterback-wise. We'll spend some time with Jacob Padilla, Hail Varsity, with you on a Friday powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you at Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, 489-1240, 489-1240. Number to get in, 800-825-5865. Open phones till 5. We'll try and connect with Jacob Padilla. Let's do Jacob on the phone. He just sent a text message. Apparently lighting is witness protection. Great for him as he's working and slaving away at the Devaney Center. Oh, hold on.
Wait,
hold
whoa,
on.
whoa, whoa, whoa,
Hold
whoa.
on. We thought Jacob was going witness protection. Instead, no. Jacob Padilla's in the corner. Somebody put Jacob in the corner. Jacob, how we doing?
Good. I was trying to find an angle where I wasn't going to blind anybody that happened to be watching the stream. So I need to turn around and find something that'll work.
This is a little bit disappointing because I was hoping that we were going to get the chance to be able to use this still, Jacob. And for the people on the radio, they'll be able to see this. I apologize. But I've been wanting to use this.
Yes.
For a whole week now.
Please.
It's beautiful.
Jacob's in a black T-shirt like he just got back from a Metallica show. And he's got his thumb up. But we need one with Jacob, saying you're number one. we need happy Jacob giving the thumb up or thumbs up, and we need the angry Jacob, like his Packers just lost, telling you you're number one. But all kidding aside, Jacob's all over Husker Volleyball, does great work with basketball and prep sports as well with Hail Varsity and Hurrdat Sports. Jacob, we'll get to volleyball in a minute. We'll get to some hoops in a moment. But I want to get your take. We've been talking all week about portal quarterbacks. You do a great job of covering Nebraska football as well. The arrow is pointing towards Kyle McCord of Ohio State. That's the buzz the last probably 48 hours. You've watched enough Big Ten football. What's your take on Nebraska going potentially more pro-style quarterback versus dual threat?
Well, I mean, it seems like that's kind of where they wanted to get from the start, just based on the quarterbacks they have recruited outside of Jeff Sims, with first Royola and then obviously Danny Kalen landing him. Definitely much more in that vein. I think this year the offense was pretty much just, we got to figure out whatever works. And so I'm not surprised to see them go that direction. The question is, can you put enough pieces around that guy to make it work? Because obviously this year, even if they had an elite passing quarterback, I don't think that would have been sustainable, just with the issues they had at wide receiver and the pass protection and all that. It was kind of like, all right, they had to run the quarterback because they had to find some way to move the ball. So ideally, I think they're hoping that they'll be better. They'll continue to improve in the protection department. They hope they'll be able to run the ball when they need to, as opposed to just kind of racking up the yardage and then kind of struggling in key situations from that regard. And you get a passing quarterback in here that can keep defenses honest. I think they like that picture. So McCord, he's a guy interesting. Obviously, at Ohio State, they're used to the elite game-breaking type of quarterbacks that go in the first round. They've had however many of those guys in a row. He's not that, but he was pretty solid there. Just overall in terms of his numbers and everything that he accomplished this year. Now the trick there is he's not bringing Ohio State's receivers with him. He's not bringing Ohio State's offensive line with him. So the question is, all right, how truly talented is he outside of that Ohio State environment where he wasn't necessarily what they were hoping to be to compete for a playoff spot? But I think probably for what Nebraska wants, he's a guy that can fill that spot.
Well, Jacob, whenever you look at the rumored visits next week, the guys Nebraska's been talking to, the guys that Nebraska's apparently in on, you're talking the likes of Will Howard and Cam Ward, and with those two names especially, does it feel like McCord is almost a backup option, a settling for that guy should they not get Will Howard or Cam Ward? Because those are lofty aspirations trying to get in the portal with where Nebraska has been the past couple of years. And I guess kind of to follow up on that, the same kind of vein, is it a win for Nebraska if the guy you're settling for in the transfer portal, and obviously this is with Kyle McCord still being uncommitted and maybe Nebraska ends up with none of them, but if McCord's the guy you settle for, is that a win for Nebraska based on where they've been in recent years, that the guy you're settling for was an 11-1 quarterback at Ohio State that was a win away, or maybe two, depending on the Big Ten championship game from the college football playoff?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I mean, just kind of thought about it. It's a lot like what Iowa did with McNamara coming from Michigan, where he was a Michigan quarterback, starting quarterback there, and won a lot of games for them, but wasn't. They had another guy come in that they liked a little bit better. And so McNamara left, landed at Iowa. Obviously, the injury issues kind of derailed that for them and for him. But I think Nebraska is kind of trying to do something similar. If it does end up being McCord, it's a guy that maybe wasn't quite what they were used to at the previous spot, but he's still a good player. And with where we're at right now, we're not necessarily competing for a college playoff spot. We're competing to get back to winning, getting back to a bowl game, getting back to improving the program, moving it forward. And if they believe McCord is a guy that in a different setting can be that guy, and for him coming out of that Ohio State spot where it's like, all right, that didn't go quite the way that I thought it would, but I got a chance to come in here at Nebraska and be a guy like McNamara was for Iowa in terms of just talking about being the leader and having a chance to improve a situation where defense is really good. You just need a guy that can make things click on offense. So I think, considering what we just saw with their last quarterback experiment, I think a guy like McCord would certainly be a win.
Jacob Padilla is with us on Hail Varsity Radio. Do you think if Nebraska were able to land Kyle McCord that they would bring in Leavitt as well to be that developmental backup piece? Obviously, you'd probably lose Chubba Purdy in that whole scenario, but what are the odds of that in your opinion?
Yeah, that I have no idea. Just kind of about like the dynamics there of bringing multiple quarterbacks. And obviously we saw under the previous staff, Nebraska did that with Casey Thompson and Chubba Purdy. And so a lot of that kind of falls on a guy like Leavitt and what he's looking for. I think Purdy was fine with coming into this situation, being a second quarterback. He was still young. You knew that Thompson was an upperclassman, wasn't going to be here long, and was willing to come into this environment and work to establish his spot in the program. I mean, if that's something that Leavitt is interested in and Nebraska feels like, hey, we can develop him and he can turn into something down the road, then sure, because, again, we literally just saw it in the same program under a different staff. But I have no idea about Leavitt and kind of what he's looking for in this situation.
Jacob, last thought here on the quarterbacks before we talk some volleyball and some basketball. By the time that we chat next week, will one of Will Howard, Cam Ward, or Kyle McCord be committed to Nebraska?
A week. at some point these dominoes have to start falling, right?
Exactly.
I think at least one of them will probably be committed in the next week here. I don't know that one of them will be committed to Nebraska, but as long as we can start those dominoes to fall and start moving towards whoever that guy is going to be, I think it'll be a good thing.
Jacob, a thought on Nebraska, Arkansas. Let's talk volleyball.
Yeah, should be a great match. Arkansas, 5-set thriller with Kentucky. That thing went back and forth throughout after Kentucky won both the matches during the regular season. Jillian Gillens had an awesome season, was ridiculous in that Kentucky match. 20 kills on almost 400 hitting, 12 digs. It'll be fun too. Kylie Weeks is on that Arkansas team, Elkhorn South graduate. So another Nebraskan is coming here and playing at PBA, or at the Devaney rather, where she helped Elkhorn South win a state title, I believe. So a few storylines there. It'll definitely be the best team that Nebraska has played. It's going to be a much a big step up in competition, rather than what we saw for Georgia Tech, who part of that was Nebraska, but part of that was they just did not play very well. But Nebraska also elevated their play as well. So, I mean, you got nothing but 1s, 2s, and 3s left in the tournament. Every match should be great moving forward, and I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Is Arkansas a better matchup for Nebraska than Kentucky? What's your take on those two teams? It was a thriller, as you said, 5 sets. It really could have been either. Is Arkansas the better matchup?
Well, I mean, Nebraska already faced Kentucky once this season, so you kind of had and we know how that went. Nebraska obviously took care of business in that one. So on the one hand, you could say, oh yeah, Kentucky, Nebraska's already seen them. But Kentucky got a lot better after that previous match, and they beat Arkansas twice. So honestly, I don't know that there's really that much of a difference in terms of matchups. Like they always say, it's going to come down to Nebraska playing Nebraska volleyball. And if they're operating at a really high level, then they should win this and move on down to Tampa.
Jacob, about a minute here. Your takeaways from the disaster in Minneapolis Wednesday night, and what does Nebraska need to do going forward to try and get a win on Sunday?
Funny how you call it the disaster in Minneapolis, and that could refer to multiple events over the past couple of years in Nebraska.
Yeah, which one?
History.
We'll go with the most recent one.
What happened? I looked at halftime and they were up like 14.
They were.
Don't do this.
They were. We know, Jacob.
What happened?
Honestly, I only watched like the first 5 minutes of that game. I thought, okay, I looked at halftime, the score.
Good for you.
Figure things out. They did not figure things out. They've got to, I mean, defensively, offensively, they've got issues on both sides, but I think it starts with that defense. They gave up 50-plus in 2 halves, back-to-back games. So even when they were winning, Hoiberg was saying, not thrilled with where we're at defensively at this point. We got to start cleaning some things up. I just put together a film thread on Twitter of Baylor Shireman and a bunch of his threes against Nebraska. They've got to be better in attention to detail and communication, and they've got to be sharper in what they're trying to do. Just because the chaotic style is not working right now. So start there, and then offense, you can figure it out. Hopefully you get back to that defensive identity.
Well, Jacob Padilla, find him on Twitter at Jacob Padilla _ all your Husker volleyball needs, all your Husker hoops and Creighton hoops, and yes, high school sports. Jacob, are you going anywhere tonight real quick?
West Side and Gretna. Should be a fun one.
Oh, nice. That'll rock.
Yeah. Coach Feakin at Gretna, everybody in the basketball world is thinking of you, and just support Gretna. They've got a fundraiser coming up for him and his family. So
thank you, Jacob, for that message, bud. You take care.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty.
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? When I point at you, yeah.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
Quick shout out to a couple of Huskers that earned freshman All-American honors. Prince Will Yellen, second team freshman All-American by the Athletic. Cam Lanhart, honorable mention freshman All-American by the College Football Network. Both those guys big-time performers as young pups for Nebraska. And the sky's the limit for them with this Mr. White defense. And, science.
I knew it was coming. I was going to say it.
I know. Good recognition. Good recognition for both those guys for Nebraska. Nebraska has a lot of upside and youth performing on the defensive side of the football. Offensively, you saw some good things from young wideouts. And that is part of this bigger conversation when we're locked in, fellas, on the portal. And as the portal turns, part 3, day 3 with Nebraska football. And Cam Ward, the temperature is rising for Kyle McCord when it comes to crystal balls by some of the national analysts. And right now, Kyle McCord is possibly in the crosshairs for Nebraska, but you still really like Will Howard. You still really like Cam Ward. Can you get your top choices? And you have 3 good options to add to that quarterback room, Elijah. You want to jump in on a comment Anthony is calling you out on.
And I appreciate the thought, Anthony. He's got a fair point here. He says, what the hell is Elijah talking about settling for McCord in response to my question to Jacob? He says, hell yes, take McCord. My point is not that Nebraska feels that Kyle McCord is not a good quarterback. I feel Kyle McCord is a good quarterback.
Yes.
I just don't believe, whenever you look at the fact that USC and Lincoln Riley with his history with quarterbacks, Oregon, all these schools are in on Will Howard. I don't think everybody is wrong on Will Howard. I don't think I'm a quarterback guru by any means, but what I've seen from Will Howard has impressed me. If Lincoln Riley sees stuff from Will Howard and that's impressive to him, I think that's saying something.
No, he's a good quarterback.
Cam Ward's the same way with his NFL future pedigree, most likely, his success at Washington State. He's forecasted to be one of the earlier quarterbacks off the board in next season's NFL draft, assuming he comes back for another season. I don't think the NFL scouts are wrong in what they see in Cam Ward.
Well, Ohio State wants him.
Exactly. And what does Ryan Day know about quarterbacks? A hell of a lot, because he's developed a lot of first-round quarterbacks. He knows how to put you in the first round.
Knows
how to put you in the first round. And if he's sitting back and saying, you know what, Kyle McCord wasn't good enough for this season, I like this Cam Ward kid out of Washington State, I think that says something about Kyle McCord. So I'm not saying that Kyle McCord is not a good quarterback. I think he's a major upgrade on everyone Nebraska would have in their room. But I'm saying it's a sign of progress that Nebraska has gotten their foot in the door with quarterbacks such as Will Howard, a guy that USC wants, such as Cam Ward, a guy that Ohio State wants. It means something that Nebraska has their foot in the door there. And I think that with all that in mind, McCord is your third choice among those 3. So if you end up with Kyle McCord, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I am just saying you are settling when compared to Will Howard and Cam Ward if those are the guys you're going after. So I can understand how me saying settling for McCord is a bad take. You know what? I'll accept it. I've had plenty of bad takes in my time here on Hail Varsity Radio. I'll own them. But I think my point still stands in that if Nebraska ends up with their third choice, and their third choice is a guy with the pedigree such as Kyle McCord, who went 11-1, was close to a college football playoff this season, put up really gaudy numbers. It's an Ohio State offense, I know, but great numbers. I think it's a win that if that's your third choice and he ends up at Nebraska, that's just an ultimate win.
Yeah, I think settling is the wrong word, honestly, to use it. I mean, think about it. If you put Kyle McCord on this team this past season, they probably win 8-9 games, right? I think that's a pretty fair number to put on that. I don't think settling is the right word to talk about Kyle McCord. Yes, are Cam Ward and Will Howard potentially more appealing options for you? Sure. Cam Ward has been electrifying. He's a really athletic quarterback. He can get outside the pocket. He can be mobile. He can throw the ball really well. Will Howard has shown that he can throw the ball really, really well at Kansas State. Kyle McCord can throw the ball well. He won 11 games in the Big Ten last year at Ohio State. I get it's Ohio State, but still, you won 11 games in the conference that you currently play in. That's got to carry at least some sort of weight with you, right? So I don't think the word settling is correct. Maybe he's not your first option, but you're still more than happy to have him. I mean, and that goes back to Anthony's comment. I mean, why wouldn't you want him, right? He knows how to win. And that's what you've been struggling to do for the past 7 years.
Does he know how to? I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second, just for the sake of conversation. Does he know how to win with Nebraska's talent?
I think.
Does he know how to win
more with Nebraska's talent than Nebraska's talent's been winning with Nebraska's talent?
And I agree with you. But it is an apples and oranges conversation.
Yes.
Or it's an apples and pineapple conversation when we get into Ohio State's offense and what Nebraska has. I'm confident the offense will be better, but they need a better trigger man. They need an improved Chubba, if that's the guy. But if you can get a guy like McCord, that's fantastic. Now, the caveat is this, fellas. You're going to need your I-back run game and your offensive line to be able to run the football when they want to and run the football when they have to, because you're not going to be able to sprinkle in this mobile quarterback unless we do what Anonymous is suggesting, and that is get the old Double H ready to rock and roll for some Tebow love, some Wildcat red zone fun where you put in the old bulldozer. So I think there's enough talent here to win and be in an upper echelon spot of the Big Ten next year paired with Nebraska's defense. But that's a big ask. And to the settle conversation, to bring it full circle, Nebraska settled a year ago.
Yes.
On Sims.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. And again, this is kind of a rebuttal to the rebuttal. You won 5 games averaging 18 points a game. I mean, think about that. That's a team that maybe wins 3 when you score 18 points a game. You don't need
how great your defense was.
Yeah, it talks about how good your defense was, but at the same time, you gave yourself, obviously, again, the defense gave yourself a chance. So even if you get, a little bit of an upgrade, I feel like, on offense, you're over that 6-win threshold that you've been longing for so long. And then you bring in a guy like McCord, potentially, that could be massive. So that's why I think the word settle is not the right word to describe this situation.
My analogy for this situation is what Nebraska has in their quarterback room currently is some Jack and Cokes, But what you got in the transfer portal is a whole bunch of old fashions. You're trying to go find the best old fashioned, but at the end of the day, even an average old fashioned is an upgrade on a Jack and Coke.
Well, the good news is there's whiskey. There's whiskey.
Pair an average old-fashioned with a nice steak, some potatoes, some nice accompaniments with that, and you got yourself a pretty damn good meal.
You got yourself more than 20 a game.
Yeah, that's right. Here's the thing. Nebraska needs to make a jump in the relevancy department. You do that by finishing in the top half of a new, just straight up gory Big Ten with the number of playoff candidates you have assumed going in. And you need a way to make your rep better on offense. You get a good quarterback to do that. We'll wind down hour 1.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
15 minutes away, we'll spend time with Bill Doleman, Pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports. More on Nebraska and their pursuit or selection. However you want to view it. Kyle McCord, come on down. What's his future look like? Is it in Lincoln? Is Cam Ward still in play? What about Will Howard? How about the visit list next week for those in the portal? 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Jack Ebling, Michigan State insider. We'll talk a little hoops with us, but we'll get his take also on Sam Leavitt. Sam Leavitt's a big picture, more so long-term option that Nebraska visited. What's the word on Leavitt? And how quickly can Chubba heal after that sports hernia surgery? Him and Gifford are 2 names to look at moving forward. Reminder about buckling up. Use your seatbelt. It saves lives. It prevents injuries. Only if properly worn. Make it click. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. We kind of get Billy D's rating right now. Fellas, if you had to rank them right now, where do you go? Who's your 1, 2, 3? What does the Elijah Herbel, what's the Connor Clark board look like? Howard's 1 for me. Ward is 2 for me. And then I'm going McCord 3. That's not a knock. That's just how, if I'm writing checks and inviting folks to Lincoln next week, and it's NIL, it's, all right, dude, get us to a 8, 9, 10, 11 win team. with this defense, that's my order. Do either of your orders vary from what I said? And it's okay if it does.
It's just slightly. I have Ward over Howard, personally. The one thing with Ward that concerns me is the fumbling numbers behind Nebraska's offensive line. 14 last season. I believe it's 44 in his college career, which is a lot, but he has started for 4 seasons. You expect the guy's going to get a little bit better with that, but the concern is then with Nebraska's offensive line, how much are you going to hit in the pocket? But the numbers speak for themselves. 25 games across 2 seasons for Washington State, 6,400 yards through the air, 43 touchdowns through the air, 11 touchdowns on the ground. Let's not act like Washington State had the best supporting cast either. It's good, probably a step ahead of where Nebraska's been in recent years, but still not the top of college football by any means. Those are some impressive numbers. I have him at the top, followed by Will Howard. Right behind Will Howard is McCord, personally, in my opinion. Then below that, I probably go with
guy from Baylor. I forget his name. I apologize.
Chapin.
Thank you.
Chapin's all right. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say between Chapin and Leavitt. I'd probably go Leavitt just above Chapin. Chapin's got the experience.
I like Leavitt a lot.
I think Leavitt's got the higher ceiling in the long run.
I agree with Cam Ward at 1. I'll probably – this is kind of –
I go Howard, Ward.
This is going to be kind of a cop-out. I'm going to go Howard and McCord are kind of like 2A, 2B. So, there. And then
I think it's important that you get a way to keep Chubba here. Bring one of the ones you like in here, but find a way to keep Chubba in that quarterback room. That's huge. And see what type of development he can have.
Can I say, last thought before we get out of here, if Cam Ward's at Nebraska, that is the type of get that I think puts you into national top 25 relevancy. Just
sure does.
I'm not sure
that's Russell.
Does that,
that's Russell Wilson. Mm-hmm. No, you're right. I think you're right. We'll get to Bill Doleman's thoughts. Hour 2, it's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.
He's the pride of Fairbury, an average Joe. Bill Doleman, the professor.
I had a 6 ACT in 1967. One time I got an A and my grandma beat me for cheating.
Now with Hail Varsity Radio.
Good to have you back. Hour 2, it's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark, pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports. The professor is Bill Doleman. Billy D, how we doing? How's your dead week been? And has there been money exchanged? Christmas gift exchange. Like, I'm not saying portal amounts, but have your students left more than apples on your desk?
Are you asking about one particular student and representing perhaps a parent in a parent-teacher conference at the end of dead week?
Connor left a handgun on Bill's desk.
And a bottle of scotch.
That escalated quickly.
Connor said use both.
I think Connor's got a chance to just squeak by and maintain eligibility. A lot of people around here are really anxious for Connor to graduate because he's talented, and
they've been anxious
looking forward to what he does in the future. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah,
they've been ready since August of 2020. Don't worry, Bill.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Bill, it's been a Portal Friday, and the talk is Kyle McCord. What's your order right now? What is the Bill Doleman preference? And I do got to give Kent a shout out via email, chris@hailvarsity.com. And okay, you can have your wish list, what's gettable versus what you want. And, Nebraska can at least get visits or hellos, but do you close is the question. Time will tell with all of that. And Ken emailed in, how about this? KJ Jefferson.
Ooh.
A name to think about. And I'm like, well, okay, is he turnover prone? What's the story? He's your dual threat. But
is that the guy that went to Ridgemont High?
No, that's
Jefferson that they just
well. It was just Jefferson. They flew him in for the big games, right? Fast Times at Ridgemont High reference, you two young pups.
Right.
But 67 touchdowns, 18 interceptions, 4 yards a carry, 21 touchdowns.
I think with whoever you get, wherever you get them from, it depends on what system. And I think maybe in the early days of the transfer portal, I think people were going kind of where they wanted to go and maybe not where the best fit was for them. And this is the whole Satterfield is flying all over the country and trying to convince them that this is the best fit. So I think we're still in that jury's out as to just who you're going to get and how they fit, right? The McCord thing is, I think people are excited because he's an Ohio State guy. But is that really going to be the best fit for Nebraska? Is Will Howard, because he plays in the same area as Cam Ward, KJ Jefferson, Moore, Ungalele? Until they get here, you just don't know. And people are really enamored with what they think that they might get as opposed to what actually arrives on campus. I at this point, I don't know. Well, everybody was excited a year ago about Jeff Sims, right?
That is true.
And so you just don't know. But it's a grass is greener type thing. And maybe the best quarterback for Nebraska is already here.
Well, James is nails right here in the comments and can watch the show as always, Hail Varsity YouTube channel or the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter handle at HVarsity Radio. James says this, it's funny because it feels like Nebraska is a 4 asking a 10 to prom. I'd be happy with whoever.
But with Matt Rule saying the 1.5 to 2 million number, that's large in the transfer portal. That'd be like a 4 pulling up in his dad's Porsche with the nicest flowers, wearing a Rolex and the nice couple $100 snakeskin shoes and asking the 10 to prom. There is some added benefits than just being a 4.
Sure. You can buy your way into yeses.
He drives up like that, wearing that. There's pretty good chance the 10's getting in the car, right?
Yes. Or you're getting busted for solicitation.
Yeah, right.
Or that.
Yeah, right.
All possibilities.
It's funny if you were to watch a lot of videos that are out there of Ohio State keyboard scouting experts and some Michigan people. I mean, they've got film broken down on Kyle McCord that it's like, I mean, how is that guy, even playing college football? It's very selective in the editing, and that gives more keyboard warriors more ammunition to say, that he's going to be a bust. If he gets in the right system where he's more comfortable, maybe he will flourish. The same thing with all of them. They might get the right place for him. They might go to the wrong place. Jeff Sims went to the wrong place. It did not work out. It's interesting because Matt Rule said a couple weeks ago in his finale, I thought Nebraska was not going to go heavy with the money, and they were going to look for somebody who was going to be around for the long term. So that would point to Leavitt, right? But the talk over the last few days is 1 to 1.5, and it's all in on McCord, who's a 1-year guy. So what's changed? Or did we not read that right when he said it? As I brilliantly said earlier on the Average Joe Sports Show podcast, if Kyle McCord completes the pass and leads Ohio State to a win over Michigan, is this even a conversation?
No, because he's your starter next year for him.
Right. Ryan Day has lost to Michigan 3 times. McCord gets him in position at the end of the game, but he throws the interception. But if they end up winning that game, does Ryan Day come out and say, well, I'm not sure who's going to be our starting quarterback for the playoff,
No.
even though they would have been in the playoff had they beaten Michigan? But he throws the interception, they lose, we're not committing. On the other hand, if Chubba Purdy leads Nebraska down the field 87 yards for the go-ahead touchdown against Maryland and doesn't throw an interception, is Nebraska talking about portal shopping the way it is? I mean, it's
a butterfly. It's a butterfly effect. You're probably bringing in some quarterbacks, guys, but the bottom line here is how real is the competition this spring going to be? Whoever's quarterback versus Chubba and Kalen moving forward, or even Ohio State. How real is the competition? The conversation with McCord was probably like, dude, you got Keenholtz. We could go get a Cam Ward because we're Ohio State. You can stay if you want. I know you won 11 games. Good job, son. But your job is not safe. So there's a lot of ifs.
Nobody's job should be safe. But you would think that maybe with 11 wins, it might have been not.
There should be some appreciation.
It might not have been so public, right? And you just lost to Michigan. It's your third straight loss, but do you really need to be public and hanging the quarterback out to dry? Essentially putting him in front of the bus saying, I'm not sure he's our starter going forward. Do you say that? I don't know.
It's the same guy who did.
So he might be motivated to get out of there and go to a place where he'll be much more welcome. That would certainly be Lincoln, Nebraska. But also, who's going to be available after the playoff and the portal opens in the spring? Does Nebraska get into a bidding war with, for somebody right now with Cam Ward or Howard or McCord or somebody else, Leavitt, and then after spring, and they don't win right now, and who's available isn't the best fit, and then maybe somebody comes available after spring. I don't know,
guys. Up to date, Elijah Herbel on it here. A Silverhawk Aviation twin jet Cessna took off from Lincoln about 3 o'clock, landed in Manhattan, Kansas about an hour and a half ago. It has just taken off and is en route to Waco, Texas, where it will land and spend about 4 hours before coming back to Manhattan for a quick pit stop and then finishing its flight back to Lincoln at about 12 a.m. tonight. So you can read in between the lines there, a Friday afternoon flight to Manhattan and then to Waco and then all the way back to Lincoln. Something tells me there's some Husker coaches on that flight.
Flight tracker season.
I also heard that there might be the main target might be here on Monday. So there you go. That's what we all hear, all kinds of stuff.
So Bill, I want to go back to something that you said about, okay, you get into a bidding war now, or do you see who's available in the spring? I personally don't think waiting for the spring is an option. And it also goes into the conversation of, okay, what happened to, we want to develop a guy, but all of a sudden they're worth $1.5-2 million. I think there's like some sort of line of realization of like, okay, you want to have that ability and that option to develop, say, a Leavitt for a hypothetical scenario, but you also want to improve next year, like right away. So I think they're trying to find that balance right now, and obviously it's difficult to do with just one person. So I think you have to kind of go after that guy that can make you win more games right away and have somebody behind him for that future role.
I would agree with that you need to be a player now. But what if one of these targets says, it's not 1.5, it's 2.5 or it's 3. Is Nebraska that in with McCord, Howard? I mean, or
maybe
Ward? I mean, are you willing to pay? I'm just saying, with the way the portal is, and with 1.5 to 2 million, as Ryan Day said a couple of years ago, is Nebraska just going to say, look, we are not in at 1.5. We're not in.
What's the difference between $500,000 and 1.5? Is it
other players?
Is it 30?
Maybe,
is it 30 fewer turnovers?
maybe Nebraska's in at 1.5 on a quarterback and another 750 to 1 on a really good receiver package deal. Ohio State that people keep talking about. So maybe they're willing to go 3 on 2 as opposed to one quarterback who's out there, doing to Nebraska like the dude did to Jerry Maguire, and the price just went up, and you signed with Bob Sugar.
That's a tough moment.
I think if Nebraska is going to spend that kind of money it's probably going to be on a couple of players who can help them out and not just on one guy who's holding him hostage.
I think it's fair.
And I think they need to do it now. And if they don't do it now, I don't think you're spending $3 million because you're in a panic move in the spring. If there's somebody available in the spring that you can bring in that might help your team and be competitive, so be it.
Schmidt, we lost you for a second, but we got you now.
All right, Bill, I got to ask you before we get you out, the magnitude of Sunday for Fred, for Nebraska, and Sparty coming to town. Both teams are trying to shake off major issues their last couple ball games.
I'd rather not talk about it.
Thanks.
I mean, after look, the hopes were pretty high on Sunday, right? Last Sunday with the Creighton game.
I'm talking Wednesday's a bigger issue to me than Sunday.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. But Sunday was bad, right? And God threw snowballs on everybody after the game. So, but to come out on Wednesday and play so well in the first half, I mean, that was like, oh my gosh, this team really did learn its lesson, and they are taking it out on a vulnerable bunch of Gophers, right? They kicked the Gophers after they'd been run over. And then they play so bad in the second half. It was like, it was like, 40 years of basketball frustrations all wrapped up into 20 minutes of really bad basketball. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody was heartened by what they saw in the first half. Like, oh my God, these guys can really play. This is a really good basketball team. But they did learn the lessons from Creighton. But then it just seemed like I've seen this Mo Iba produced movie, this Barry Collier coached produced movie, this, unfortunately some of the bad Tim Miles teams and Docs, and you're like, make it stop. Please make the second half stop. And that second half was really bad. So they've got to bounce back. They've got to give that kind of defensive effort that they had at the end of last year. Tominaga has got to
quit looking for calls.
He's got to elevate his game. I mean, it's like teams have kind of figured him out, and it's tougher for him to get shots, and they know he's going to try to get shots, but he needs to be now a step ahead, and he's not. And that's frustrating.
Bill, last I hear about 30 seconds, Connor dubbed that game the disaster in Minneapolis. I think there's a couple different disasters in Minneapolis that could get that title. Where does this disaster in Minneapolis rank for you among the disasters we've seen in Minneapolis in recent years among football and basketball and really about any sport?
That just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
Call it a monstrosity, too.
Oh, monstrosity in Minneapolis?
That's probably better.
That's better.
Yeah. The 2 years ago or 3 years ago, the football game there when Jacques Yant can't get in from the 5 and Nebraska's got a first and goal from the 5. That was bad. And then
was that Sleevegate? Which one was Sleevegate?
No, that was
19.
Okay.
Or never mind.
So not being able to get in from the 5 on first and goal was awful. But this past one was bad. But the opener football game this year was bad because Gabe Irvin scored. He scored so that was even worse. We had a touchdown that we didn't get. We, as in the Huskers, sorry, didn't mean to go unobjective. Mm-hmm. And then to lose it in that fashion, this one was bad.
That was horrible. And
basketball's just seen it before.
Bill, be good. Thanks for the time, brother.
All right, boys, go Big Red.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Cornhead Lager. Plenty of things to talk about when it comes to Michigan State. We welcome in renowned journalist and radio host Jack Ebling, and follow Jack on Twitter at DriveWithJack. Jack Ebling with us. Jack, you ready for a weekend? You're coming to Lincoln, right?
To tell you what this basketball team's all about right now, I'm doing college hockey. And Michigan State and Nebraska women's basketball tomorrow.
And then I'll be watching the Detroit Lions play the Chicago Bears on Sunday. So Michigan State basketball has to do a little bit more before it gets me to Lincoln.
Well, they have a perfect get-right opportunity on Sunday, Jack. I tell you what, based on recent history, I guess it's a good get-right opportunity for both teams.
Yeah, Tom Izzo has a lot of respect for Fred Hoiberg, and he kept telling us, watch Nebraska. And then some of us watched Nebraska the last two games and thought that was time in our lives we'd never get back. But we just went through that with the Michigan State-Wisconsin game. And you guys know that Wisconsin is not known for its rebounding might. In fact, a lot of times it doesn't even compete on the offensive glass. Badgers non-bigs had more offensive rebounds than Michigan State's team, and it is hard to be out-rebounded by Wisconsin 36-22.
Jack Ebling's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, all things Michigan State, Nebraska, Michigan State this weekend, women's and men's. We will get Jack's take on former Spartan quarterback Sam Leavitt in a moment. He's been visited by Nebraska this week in East Lansing. So, Jack, what the hell's up with Michigan State? You mentioned the rebounding disparity. Nebraska's been a bit of a nightmare from a gut check standpoint. They were just god-awful the second half against Minnesota. No heart.
Yeah.
And we were talking during the Michigan State-Nebraska football game about, the prospects for this Michigan State team. They came in, fourth in the country preseason?
Yeah, and ties the worst first 8 game performance by any team in college basketball history. There are only 4 of them who were ranked top 5 and are started 4-4. No one's been worse. So Michigan State probably needs to win this game because they've got undefeated Baylor coming up right after that. And Michigan State has a string of 25 straight years of making the tournament. Nobody is obsessed about that right now, but a loss to Nebraska would make some people talk about it.
It's Jack Ebling with us here on Hail Varsity Radio, talking Nebraska and Michigan State on Sunday. And tell me, Jack, you kind of laid it out with that Wisconsin game. What exactly do you think has gone wrong for this Sparty squad this year? And do you think there's still time for them to get it right? Because that's the thought around Nebraska. There is still time for Fred Hoiberg to get this right. It's transfers that have come in and gotten together.
Yeah.
It's been a couple of disappointing losses, but at the end of the day, it's a team that hasn't been playing together for all that long. And you know what? There's still some time for Fred.
Yeah.
Is it the same story, Michigan State? Is there still hope that this season can get turned around for Sparty?
And there's always time with the Tom Izzo team. We've seen this in some other years, but this is not a bunch of guys who just showed up on campus. This is a veteran team. Now, they do have a heralded freshman class, which has not exactly lived up to its billing. A couple guys have had flashes, but hasn't really had a major impact. One of them is redshirting, another one barely plays. But I would say the problem is what was supposed to be the best backcourt in the country of Tyson Walker, A.J. Hoggard, and Jaden Akins has been disappointing. And Walker still scores his points, but they lost the opener to a very good James Madison team when Walker left 8 points at the free throw line. They lost that game in overtime. And A.J. Hoggard has periods where he's the best player in the court, and then he has 10, 15 minutes where you don't see him or hear his name. And Jaden Akins, who was probably their second best shooter a year ago, at least their third best, and this was a team that was among the best in the nation in field goal shooting and three-point shooting, has been abysmal. This team started the year 2 for 31 from 3. So everyone is wondering what happened, and you watch them in practice, and they make them all. They shoot free throws the night before every game, and they're always over 90% as a team. And the game starts, and I don't know, they put blindfolds on or something. But this has been a major problem, and you think they're good shooters. They've been good shooters their whole career, but they are in a team funk right now.
Jack Ebling with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Jack, of course, covers Michigan State and statewide radio with The Drive with Jack, his show, and also does Press Pass on Fox 47 Sundays. So Jack's everywhere between the Lions and Spartans, and she's got to take on Michigan this year with their entrance into the college football playoff. They got in as a top seed. Jack, before we get your playoff take, I want you to take on Sam Leavitt. He's one of 5 quarterbacks Nebraska's visited. Plenty of upside, 4 years to play. Not recruited by his home state of Oregon State or Oregon. His new coach, or would have been his new coach, Jonathan Schmidt, didn't recruit him, and he didn't stick around to try and win a job at Sparty. So give us a lowdown on the ups and downs and lefts and rights of one Sam Leavitt.
Yeah, and I don't think Jonathan Smith said Sam Leavitt can't play. It's just that they had DJ Uyunglele coming in from Clemson. And they had their dream quarterback, a guy who's back in the portal and maybe following Smith to Michigan State, a guy named Aiden Childs. And if you've seen him play, he's Justin Fields 2.0. So I would say, it wasn't anything against Leavitt. When he got here, he did some good things. He's very confident. I'll go a little further than that. He's cocky. He thinks that he is the best player on the field at all times, and maybe that's not a bad thing for a quarterback. Sometimes that can get you into trouble, but he has the ability to extend plays, can throw the ball into tight windows, and was a little prone to make mistakes, but they weren't tentative mistakes. They were aggressive mistakes. So maybe you can temper that a little bit.
Jack, what's interesting is Leavitt kind of gets the headlines with the 4 years of eligibility, but there's 2 other portal quarterbacks from Michigan State right now. I want to get your thoughts. Leavitt seems to be the hot commodity, but who do you think is the most Power 5 ready, the most ready to be a starter? Because it's not a guarantee that Nebraska's necessarily going after Leavitt. That's what the reports say, but all we know is for sure is that they were in East Lansing.
I saw today that Kyle McCord is going to be a Cornhusker. That's not true?
Unsure.
Nothing official. I know they're trying to dance.
I think that's the leader in the clubhouse for him. This musical chairs thing. Cam Ward might be at Ohio State. Aiden Childs might be at Michigan State. Probably will be. Looks like you've got lots of quarterbacks on the move. You go from Duke to Notre Dame. That's almost a sure thing, I think. So, Nebraska's going to have a quarterback. I get that. And I think that people like what Matt Rule's doing, if they don't already. It didn't end well at the end of the year, but I think there's some promising signs.
Jack Ebling's with us on Hail Varsity Radio. The Drive with Jack, his radio show statewide in Michigan, and we're talking Sam Leavitt. So with Leavitt, is he a guy that can connect with teammates, or is it just the fact that ability will win out somewhere? And we don't know.
I really can't answer that question for you, Chris, because he didn't play enough here for us to know. He had some flashes when he was in. He never really won the job, and there was certainly a job to win. It was Noah Kim's job, and in week 2, he was Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week. The third play in week 3, he got absolutely steamrolled on a blindside blitz against Washington, and he was never the same player after that. He was hurt worse than we realized, and then finally couldn't play at all. So had he stayed healthy, the job would have been his, and Leavitt would have been an automatic redshirt. And turns out he didn't use his 4 games anyway. He decided that he was going to leave. And so, he was behind Caden Hauser as well. And I don't want to build up a third-string quarterback and make him sound like, he's the next coming. But I would think he had a lot of potential from what I saw. And down the road, he could turn into something special. I think that there's athletic talent there. I really like the way he ran, escaped out of the pocket. So, he could be very good down the road.
It's Jack Ebling with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. Catch his show, The Drive, up in Michigan. You can catch it in podcast form as well. And Jack, before we get you out of here, about 2 minutes left. Jonathan Smith, the hire for Michigan State. And I think there's always going to be doubts about a coach coming from the Pac-12, the West Coast, to the Big Ten. How is that transition going to work? What's your take on the system that he's bringing to East Lansing?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be Mike Riley or not. I think he certainly had a great run, I think you'd have to say, at Oregon State. Took over a team that didn't win a conference game, was ranked as the second worst Power 5 program in the country when he got there. And then, they're consistently in the running. Had a chance to play for a Pac-12 championship a year ago. Didn't happen at the end of the year, but, he's had some big wins, and they've been in the top 20, and that's uncharted territory for Oregon State, where he was a tremendous quarterback, again, a walk-on, kind of an overachiever, but everyone loves what he's done as a program. He's a Chris Peterson protege and a Dennis Erickson protege, and I think he has had, obviously, some encounters with Mike Riley as well, learned some things from him. So he's brought 6 members of his staff with him, and he's filling that out. I think that Michigan State's going to have a better football team down the road, going to have a better team next year because it couldn't have a worse one. They were outscored 129-3 by Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State.
Jack, we'll talk soon. Thanks for the time.
You got it. All right, take care.
Good to get caught up with Jack Ebling. Love talking and getting the Leavitt thought from him. And where Nebraska's at, we'll jump in and do the forecast. It's on the way. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Great to have you in. Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark. And crew asks an important question to Elijah and to the rest of the stream listeners. Are we feeling Lancasters or Grata? Or what are we thinking?
A lot of good options here in the capital.
I think we go the bar.
And if you are out there, if you're a bar owner and you'd like us to say your bar, just shoot me a text with a $50 Venmo.
Advertise.
Yeah. And we can do that.
Don't do anything to get fired.
There's a certain place in the Haymarket that we could totally get on here that I can't name right now. But
plenty of places downtown.
Get on it. Get the old Connor Clark, Elijah Herbel NIL love going.
Yeah, I'll have to work my magic next time I'm there at that certain place that I was there last Friday.
There's a picture of you on the wall. Do not serve this gentleman.
Yes.
Or either customer of the year or week. But do we have Claus?
We sure do.
Wow, we have Claus with us, and Claus has been passing the offering plate for NIL dollars for quarterback play and beyond. Claus, how are we doing?
Well, I'm doing okay. I do want to explain my absence from the program last week. Now, I understand that you guys have a very good program, and you usually win your time slot, and that's great. In fact, you never lose your time slot, and that's wonderful. But you're without the big star of the show, Bill Doleman, and so ESPN felt I could make more money by going on with Chucko and Gus Gus in the morning zoo down in Tuscaloosa. And I've only got one radio spot in me a week, so that's what I did.
You hit the portal. Is what you
Claus.
did. You went and took the big money NIL offer, huh?
I don't believe that.
I'm trying to get money. If it's going to cost us $1 to $2 million for someone like Will Howard or Honda Accord or whatever his name is.
Now he's definitely not coming here.
I call him Honda Accord. That's so good. Wow. Let's get into the
forecast. There's your NIL right there. Honda, get Kyle McCord on the line. Do I have advertising for
made
you?
A deal for him.
Oh, what if we're trying to get a Honda? That's so good. Oh, Claus, God love you. Let's head to The Army-Navy game. Walter says Claus has been hitting the gummies a little early and often.
Oh, Schmidt, we lost you again. Anyway.
I believe I can read lips, and I believe Schmidt said son of a ... whenever he dropped off.
Kyle Accord.
Well, now we're really down our quarterback, so now we know how Florida State feels.
Yeah, right?
Let's get into the forecast while we await Chris Schmidt. And it's America's game of the week. No, it's not the NFL. It is Army and Navy. And real American Patriot, as we mentioned with Danny yesterday, is definitely laying some action on this game. Army a 3-point favorite against Navy. I will say the surefire bet is taking the under. I will take Army in this game. Give me the Knights 17 and Navy 10. So a win and cover for Army over Navy this year. Connor.
I'm strictly picking this game off of who has the cooler uniform this weekend. And I took a good look at both of them. I think both of them look phenomenal. It's a great year for both of these teams going the Army-Navy uniform. I'm going to go with Navy, and I'm going to go, let's go 21-17 Navy. I really like their look this year. No offense to Army's uniform. It looks great, too. But I'm going to go with the Navy.
Schmitty, back to you.
Thank you. Grandpa Schmidt served in the Army, served in World War II. We're going to go Army. And we're going to say Army 20-14.
Nice scoring.
The win and the cover for Army. Claus, what do you have?
Well, I've watched a fair amount of the service academies this year, and Navy really hasn't been anything too impressive. I'm really still kind of surprised that they parted ways with their former coach, Ken Neely Oakdale. Not going to be coaching Navy tomorrow anyway. I think Army's going to take this game. It's going to be a close one, but I agree with Elijah, 17 and Navy 10.
That's a dangerous idea, agreeing with me.
Yeah, let's go to basketball. The Fred versus Izzo tip-off at 5 at PBA. I'm going to say it's a pick-em because both teams right now are playing bad basketball. Give me Michigan State, and give me Michigan State by 12.
Wow.
74-62. The misery continues for Nebraska basketball. Elijah.
I don't know what to pick in this game. I really don't. Give me Nebraska 69, Michigan State 67. A close game at Pinnacle Bank Arena. I don't know why I'm picking Nebraska, but I am. There's no rhyme or reason behind it. I think both teams deserve to lose this game based on recent performance, but I'll take Nebraska.
Connor?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Sparty. I think they're going to be playing a little bit more desperate than Nebraska, and I just think that they have a little bit more of a talent edge. They need to find somebody offensively outside of Tyson Walker. I think they do that a little bit on Sunday. I'll go Sparty 67 and Nebraska 58.
Claus, what happens here, Nebraska or Michigan State?
Well, initially I thought Nebraska would probably run away with it, considering Izzo would be distracted by the allegations of how he treated his backup dancers when they were on tour in Austria. And then my grandkids informed me that was in fact Lizzo. So I had to rethink it. But I still think Coach Hoiberg will do his hair toss, check his nails, and be feeling good as hell by the end of the game. Nebraska 69 and Michigan 65.
That was brutal.
Nicely done. NFL, Kansas City will not have Pacheco. The Chiefs are, when I texted this to y'all, favored 1.5 over Buffalo. I think Kansas City snaps out of it. Buffalo, these games are always awesome, and I think there's going to be a few more points. Give me Kansas City 28-24 as they get back and cover against the Bills.
The Broncos. Objects in the rearview mirror are closer than they appear, and they're closer to the Chiefs than anyone would think. The Broncos have a great opportunity this weekend against the Chargers. I'm going to take the Bills outright. The Broncos get another game back on the Chiefs, and the AFC West race is on. Bills 35, Chiefs 31.
Connor?
Yeah, no. Kansas City wins this game, I think. I'm going to go Kansas City. They bounced back from a loss at Green Bay in a game that, well, you can make the argument that they should have won, but Jordan Love played well, which hurts me. I'll go Kansas City 27, Buffalo 24.
Claus, what happens here? Kansas City, or are you going Buffalo?
Well, this is a game where one of the head coaches actually is facing some distractions in Buffalo. Sean McDermott, of course, the issue with Von Miller, and then Sean McDermott goes out a few years ago and makes a speech praising the 9/11 terrorist attackers for their teamwork. Now imagine
news to Schmidt.
Being able to make a speech about the 9/11 terrorists being good at teamwork and still not being the worst person associated with the Buffalo Bills. I thought if you brought some success to Buffalo football, you could get away with murder. Now,
jeez.
I think Kansas City is the better team. I think they've been playing pretty poorly lately, but I think they're one of those teams that'll turn it around when the time gets right. And the time is right now. Kansas City 20 and Buffalo 13.
Claus, you be good. Thanks so much.
Okay.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. We'll wind down a Friday. It's Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark. And be sure to check out the YouTube stream every day with Hail Varsity Radio. Hail Varsity YouTube, subscribe to that. Follow on Twitter at HVarsity Radio. Can watch the show. That way, give Elijah a follow at Herbal Essence. Give Connor Clark a follow on Twitter at C_Clark_27, at Schmidt_radio for me. Good stuff from Clauseborne, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, where you can go for the podcast. And the weekend edition tomorrow morning, Mark Kranek, myself, Elijah, we'll be getting going right around 7:45 tomorrow morning. So, guys, do you feel like a little bonus betting, staking a beer bet to get in? I know Clauseborne was off to go wash his Honda Accord.
He might have a brand new one coming to town here this week.
He might. He got, Clauseborne got Kyle McCord and Honda Accord.
That
Absolutely messed up.
That was way funnier than it needed to be, but it was great.
I know that he slipped it in well. Elijah, you feeling good about your donks? You go to the sports book tomorrow?
I am not going to the sports book tomorrow. I do have a quick note here. This from Pete Thamel. Baylor transfer quarterback Blake Shapen has committed to Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm.
So Blake Shapen off the board.
Fall.
Nebraska, that plane still scheduled to go to Waco tonight. What does that mean? Who knows? We'll talk about it tomorrow morning maybe. How do I feel about my Broncos against the Chargers? Well, I feel good considering Brandon Staley is still the head coach of the Chargers, meaning he will find a way to screw it up in the fourth quarter. 2.5 point is the line for the Chargers. I know they're at home. They don't have much of a home field advantage. The Broncos have had a lot of good success with walk-off field goals in L.A. against the Chargers in recent years. I got to take the Broncos outright in this one. So if anyone wants to take the Chargers, be my guest. But if you trust Justin Herbert and Brandon Staley, that is your problem. I'll take the Broncos winning this football game, probably 24-21.
I'll give you a vote of confidence on that.
Eat beef. Yeah, I think you're right. San Diego, L.A. I'm sorry, not San Diego.
Swear jar.
Too good. I know, swear jar. E-Beef says, don't diss the Honda Accord. I'm not. I wish I had a Honda. I don't. But it's pretty good. Steven says, donkeys, no. Dallas, Philly. Everyone's out on Philly. I think Philly rolls, or at least wins and covers. 3.5. Cowboys have been great at home. Philly, I don't think so either. That schedule they've had, it's been murder.
Doesn't make sense.
Think about it. Kansas City, Buffalo. Last week was San Francisco, and now Dallas. That was crazy. That's a crazy spurt.
Here's the thing. If anyone wants to go against me in a stake and a beer bet before we get here, I'm taking Dallas to win. I don't think they cover 3.5, but I think they win.
Is it in Dallas, I assume?
It is in Dallas, yes.
I think the Eagles are ticked off. I'll go Eagles.
I think they win by a touchdown. I'll do that.
All right, so I just got to take Cowboys outright. This Cowboys just got to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take Philly straight up.
Deal. Steak and a beer against both of you two. Double or nothing. Double or nothing.
Here we go.
Connor, we are going to get a side of beef, and it will be glorious.
It's going to be amazing.
Right. Talk to you tomorrow morning, weekend edition on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Big thanks to Elijah Connor, Chris Schmidt, back tomorrow morning. See ya.